guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I am discussing everything you need to know about lifting accessories. Every time I post a lifting video on Instagram, on my stories, or even like regular posts, I get questions about my back braces, or my knee braces, or my wrist braces. A lot of people don't really understand, one, what the purpose of these things are, and two, if they actually need to be using them. So I'm going to kind of walk you guys through what they are, why I use them, if you should invest in them, and just kind of a general overview on this basic powerlifting equipment. Now, obviously, I am training for powerlifting right now, but there are various other people who compete in weightlifting or CrossFit or just your regular gym goers that you might see utilizing something like a belt or these special lifting shoes, and you're wondering, do I really need something like this? Is this the reason why that I'm not progressing? So I first and foremost want to say you do not need any of this to make progress in the gym. Your first priority should be following a consistent training program for 4 to 5 weeks before you switch it up, and committing to that. It doesn't have to be powerlifting. If your goals are to get stronger or increase your muscle mass or even decrease your body fat, you need to prioritize a programmed resistance training program. Okay, so that's just my little disclaimer. A lot of people think that you need this stuff to succeed or to get stronger, but the reality of it is you really don't. And yes, there are advantages of using this stuff, but there are a lot of people out there who don't use anything and are super strong or super jacked or whatever the case may be. So just know that you don't have to invest all of this money into this extra stuff, especially if you're new to lifting or newer to following a program. Give your program that effort and consistency, and then maybe down the road add in 1 or 2 of these things if you feel like it's something that's going to benefit you in your training. So getting into it, we're going to start with a belt, because I feel like that's like the most common out of these 4 things that you see people using in the gym. So I have an Inzer belt. This is a lever belt, so there's no prongs. There's different styles of belts. So this one is a leather belt. Say that 25 times fast. They all essentially do the same thing. So the purpose of a belt is to help stabilize your spine by helping you increase your intra-abdominal pressure. When you put on a belt, the purpose of it being there is so that you can kind of brace effectively and push out into the belt. So say I have this belt on, I'm going to input a video here. When you take your breath in to do a squat, for example, you want your belly to kind of expand outward, and that's what intra-abdominal pressure is. That's what increasing that pressure is, so that you're stabilizing your spine as you go through the movement. It makes it a little bit safer, but you don't need a belt to increase that intra-abdominal pressure. This can just help, and as you get to heavier lifts or higher intensity lifts, it can definitely add that extra little bit of stabilization for you. So I use a belt for squats and deadlifts, and that's it. I don't use it for anything else. And the reason why I like the lever is I can just undo it really quickly. So after I'm done lifting, you can just literally flip it open and you have the belt off. So do you need to wear a belt when you're lifting? The answer is no. My rule of thumb for all of our clients is I have them train without a belt first. We work on proper breathing and bracing and doing that effectively without a belt first, and then we'll have a conversation if we get to the point where I think a belt would be helpful for them, or maybe they reached out and wanted to start wearing a belt for more stability. But I try to get them to perform the movement, whether it be a squat or a deadlift, effectively without a belt first before we move on, because as you guys know, form comes before weight. So I would rather you perfect your form, perfect your breathing and bracing first, and then progress to increasing that weight and then maybe slapping a belt on. So it's not something that you need per se, but it's something that can be helpful after you learn to breathe and brace properly. Now with that said, putting this on can kind of be a good physical cue to help you breathe properly because you have this physical thing around your stomach, right? So when I say push out against your belt, it's really easy to do that. Whereas if I was just coaching you normally without a belt and I say push your stomach out, you might just relax your stomach out. So it can be a good physical cue in that sense, but I like to ensure all of my clients are progressing well without it first. All right, moving on to knee sleeves. People for some reason like to call these knee braces, which I guess they look kind of like a knee brace. And then people like to call them knee wraps. These are not knee wraps. These are not knee braces. These are just knee sleeves. So essentially all that these do is they keep your knee joint warm. And as of right now, there is no research supporting that they add pounds to your squat or to any lift. I do think that a lot of people disagree with that and will tell you that they lift more with these on, which that might be a placebo effect. And I personally do perform better when I am wearing these and I just feel better. And I think that all comes back around to my joint just being super warm and feeling optimal, right? These are also old, but I've had these from Mark Bell Slingshot, MB Slingshot on Instagram. And the difference between a knee sleeve and a knee wrap, which I don't have to show you, but a knee wrap is essentially kind of like a wrist wrap like this, but bigger. Now there is an equipped side to powerlifting where you can use things like knee wraps, and basically those are super tight on your legs, like someone else has to wrap them for you, and they're so tight that it can be like hard to walk in them. So when you have them that tight, as you go down into your squat, they kind of help you rebound back up in a sense. So that's the difference between a knee sleeve and a knee wrap. I think that, again, they're not necessary. I think that they're something that you can kind of play around with if you want to, but they're not going to add pounds to your squat. They will help you perform the lift efficiently and make sure that your knee joint is warm, and that's about it. So that's why I wear those. And then moving on to the wrist wraps. So these are the Gangsta wraps from Mark Bell Slingshot. And I wear these for bench press, and sometimes I actually wear them when I'm doing a low bar squat. So when you do low bar, there is more pressure on your wrist joint because you're kind of supporting the bar a little bit more than you would on a high bar position. And if you don't know what I'm talking about with low bar squat, all I'm saying is the bar is sitting lower on your back. So a regular squat, which is what most of you guys do if you're not powerlifting, or even if you are powerlifting, is the bar sits more up on your traps, whereas a low bar squat sits kind of like on the shelf of your rear delt. So obviously more pressure on your wrist for that, especially as the load increases, so this can help with that. And then I also wear them for bench for a little bit added wrist support. I personally do like the feeling of having the extra support of the wrist wraps, and I feel like when I first started powerlifting and really pushing myself and lifting heavy, my wrist did hurt a lot, and it's a common thing that I hear from a lot of our new lifters or new powerlifters. And it's a common thing I hear from a lot of new lifters. If you're new to lifting, your joints aren't really used to that yet. It's a common thing to have some wrist pain, but make sure that you're constantly working on mobilizing your wrist and doing all the other things on top of wearing these. None of these things are like a quick fix or a band-aid to any injuries or issues that you have. They're just kind of an aid and an accessory to possibly help your lifts feel a little bit more efficient and a little bit easier. So those are wrist wraps. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about today is lifting shoes. So you guys may see people in the gym lifting with these special heeled shoes. These are Nike Romaleos. I've had these for quite some time now. I've had the older version in the past, and before that I used to wear the Reebok lifters. Shoes come down to personal preference. So the thought behind the heel is that it helps decrease the range of motion in your ankle joint when you go down into a squat. Same thing like if you were to stand on a couple small plates and raise your heel, it helps you hit depth a little bit easier. That's why some people choose to wear them. They also have a really hard sole. Like I can't bend these whatsoever, which is optimal for lifting. But a lot of my friends and a lot of elite power lifters and lifters in general also lift in a flat shoe. So Converse, things like that. And the common theme between the two is that the sole is hard and flat. So if you're lifting in a running shoe, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice because running shoes are kind of squishy, right? So you have that kind of unstable surface there. You can't really feel the floor. And when you're deadlifting, squatting, doing whatever, you want to be able to feel the floor with your entire foot. So I don't recommend lifting in running shoes, but you don't necessarily have to splurge and go buy a pair of $200 Nike Romaleos to just do squats in. So I only wear these for squats. I used to wear them for bench press just because I'm short and it kind of helped a little bit. But deadlifts, you definitely don't want to wear these either because they kind of push your weight into your toes a little bit more. So with a deadlift, you want the weight distributed through the midfoot, and that can kind of mess you up. So I recommend a flat shoe for deadlifts, but with squats, these can definitely be beneficial if you struggle with ankle range of motion, which you should be doing mobility and side work to improve that anyway, right? But it just comes down to personal preference. Some people just like the feeling of lifting in a heeled shoe. So I hope that you guys understand that the theme of this video is that you don't need any of this stuff to be a good lifter or to see progress in the gym. Yes, there are benefits to using it. Yes, it can be helpful, but it's not going to make or break your progress. And first and foremost, you need to focus on following a progressive overload-based program, showing up to the gym consistently, not skipping your workouts, giving your workouts the intensity that they require, and then focusing on things like nutrition, sleep, recovery. All of that plays a big role too. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I have plenty of more powerlifting style videos to come. The next one per request is going to be all about how to get started with powerlifting and maybe make your way to doing a meet. So I will cover that next. But I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and I will see you in the next one.